Hello, I'm Jonathan Lux, Civil and Commercial Mediator. I qualified as a mediator in 1993. I first became aware of mediation in the late 1980s. It of course took a bit longer to become aware of all its various benefits. My background is as a solicitor, in fact a lifer with an international commercial law firm called Ince & Co, with key specializations in maritime, that's shipping law, and marine insurance, and other international commercial areas like aviation, international trade, etc. So that's what I was doing between 1975 as wet behind the ears article clerk, as we were then called, until I retired from the firm in 2012. And I retired a little bit before normal retirement date because I had been taking on, while still a partner with Ince & Co, mediation and arbitration appointments, and those had, let's say, increased to the point where it was difficult to handle both the day work as solicitor and the mediation and arbitration appointments, and I decided to leave the firm so as to specialise in my arbitration and mediation work. So my work since leaving my law firm and getting called to the bar breaks down into these main areas. Firstly, mediation. Secondly, arbitration. Thirdly, I do some advisory work, mostly for former clients, ship owners and the like from around the world. Fair amount of Russian work, I have to say. And then I also do some teaching, both one-off speaking events, and also teach a master's course at Nottingham University on international commercial arbitration. By background, I specialise in international commercial law. That's what I was doing as a solicitor and partner at my law firm, so predominantly shipping, international trade, offshore energy, insurance. Those were the main areas in which I practiced. I have to say, since leaving the law firm and focusing on, in particular, mediation, I mediate across the commercial spectrum, so that there are probably the majority of the cases I handle now as mediator are general commercial cases, shareholder disputes, professional negligence, non-marine insurance, corporate issues, property issues, construction issues and the like, also personal injury cases, yes, right across the commercial spectrum. Mediation style, I think people have in mind the spectrum running between purely facilitative at the one end of the spectrum, so non-judgmental, no opinion, no settlement recommendation at one end of the spectrum, to evaluative at the other end of the spectrum. And then, of course, there's also transformative mediation. Now, I've studied all of these and was fortunate to attend an excellent course at Harvard School of Negotiation just a couple of years back, and certainly it's important to be aware of these different styles, but when it comes to mediating a particular case, you have to be alert to who the personalities are in the room, the nature of the dispute, the relationships, and adapt your style to best deal with the particular dispute. So I think one needs to bring one's experience to bear, and one needs to be flexible in approach. But if forced to put a label, I think I would describe myself as robustly facilitative, which means, I think, testing propositions that you're hearing from the parties, acting as devil's advocate, and trying to find the ingredients that can move the process along towards a successful conclusion. Well, in court, the focus is entirely on each party's position. They're very much focused on their rights and their position, as set out in their pleadings. What can pave the way to settlement at mediation is a transition from the focus on rights and positions to a focus on interests and needs, and indeed also to the possibility of shared interests and needs. And that brings to mind the words of the Rolling Stones song, where the song goes, I think, you can't always get what you want, but you sometimes get what you need. The biggest challenge probably occurred after a successful mediation. It was a mediation involving, on the one side, the owners of a fleet of fishing vessels, and on the other side, a ship repair yard. And there were issues as to repairs to the fishing vessel. Mediation was successful, and a settlement agreement was signed off on the day. And so far as I'm aware, the settlement was implemented. And then after the mediation, I was surprised to receive a pallet of Dover sole, on ice of course, by way of gift from the owners of the fleet of fishing vessels. And my immediate thought was, well, I have to communicate with all parties involved in the mediation and say I've received this pallet of Dover sole. And at the time, I, of course, had to take a rapid decision for obvious reasons. And my concern was to ensure that everyone was aware, and so I sent out a message and said, unless there was any objection, I would enjoy the Dover sole with my family and friends. No objection was raised, and that's indeed what happened. We dined out on Dover sole for some time. I think, in retrospect, that was the wrong decision. Although the mediation was concluded, although, as far as I'm aware, the settlement agreement was implemented, nevertheless, I think there was the danger that it conveyed the wrong impression that my message saying, I will take this gift unless anyone raises objection, may have left doubt in the mind of the other party, the ship repair yard, as to whether any of this was at all broached during the mediation itself. Now, of course, it had not been, but doubt may have been created in the mind of the other party, and on that ground I would not, I think, today react in the way I did then. I think I would, with much regret, turn down the gift, even if that resulted in spoilt Dover sole. What a shame that would be, but unavoidable on the view I now take. Intuitive, resourceful and experienced.